There we go. That's recording. Yeah, great. Thank you. So very much a welcome to Sally and to everyone on the call. This Experts at Work webinar is called Master Your How, Gain Your Leadership Edge. It's for members of all three of our networks. We're recording this session, I think. Hasn't actually told me we are, but fingers crossed we are. And welcome to Sally Henderson. Sally, thank you so much for doing this, particularly 2 weeks, I think, of suspected COVID last week, and here you are.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it. The top work, really.
pleasure.
Sally is a high stakes leadership mentor, which I think is one of the great job titles, by the way, who works with top exec teams and C-suite leaders with clients such as NatWest, Coca-Cola, British Red Cross, Nestle, and Forbes. And you came recommended by one of our advisory board members, which we're very grateful for. So lovely to have you along. It's going to be a highly interactive session exploring your leadership style with tools and frameworks and input from all of you. No breakouts for this one, so it's just sort of all of the screen. And it's a half finish at 1 p.m. If you've not unmuted already, please feel free to trouble you to do so. That'd be
up to the other person. We cross the road to our state continue.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. So send us questions and suggestions via chat throughout, and I'll manage those, Sally. And I know you've got some exercise to do as well. Sally, over to you, and thank you so much again.
Oh, thank you, Richard. And so lovely to meet everybody. Please feel free to be on camera if you wish to be, but equally, but not everyone that works, because it is just so nice for me to see faces, to see humans across the screen. So let me just start with going into the sharing of my deck. Now, I'm promising you it's not going to be death by PowerPoint. Okay, let's get it going. Great. And I'm just going to extend the gallery so I can see as many people as I can. And also, oops, hang on. Just want to get the chat open in case anyone wants to put anything in chat. So welcome, welcome. I thought I'd start today by offering you perhaps what is the rarest gift given the jobs and professions that you do, which is a moment of time just to connect with yourself. Because in HR, in L&D, you are the epicenter of everybody's needs, and not often do you get time to think about yourself. So just for a moment, just want you to take a breath. Just clear your mind and just check in thinking, how am I in all of this? You know, how am I doing? Where's my head at? And how can I best set myself up to be very present, relaxed, and connected today? So just take a moment, clearing the brain, shutting down any of the devices, a precious moment, a gift just for you to check in with how you're feeling. And anyone who wants to be brave, I'd love anyone to share perhaps just 3 words, true words, the emotions, how you're feeling right now.
I can start if you like. So I think initially, when I logged in this morning, I felt overwhelmed because I've had quite a lot going on with different business priorities for this quarter. Second is, but I'm looking forward to actually taking a break. So I think it's quite nice, like I said, take a moment for yourself, and intrigued to see what I'm going to learn from this session this morning.
Thanks, Jessica, and thank you for going first. It always takes one.
Right.
But perhaps people just want to pop in chat a few words. How are you feeling? Because you are a community. You are in the epicenter of managing what is very demanding and has been very demanding years for all people in businesses. But you guys are the epicenter. Whenever I see anyone in your roles, I just stop and I go, how are you? Because is anybody asking, how are you? Because it's so important. And we've got some great honesty. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Overwhelmed, anxious. And that doesn't surprise me. Okay, exhausted, distracted, tired, but remaining positive. Absolutely. But look at that brilliant honesty that we've just started our session with today. Because I think it's so important we take that precious moment to check in and go, actually, how are you? So just take it. Some of you won't like this. Some of you will love it. I have had people flee my webinars when I do this, but I believe in it so passionately, I'm going to take the risk, okay? So if you don't love it, please just hang fire because there's some good stuff coming. But I want you to just take a moment, sit back and just breathe. Close your eyes and just take 3 big breaths. Right from inside, hold and let go. Just take 3 and take that moment. And how do you feel now? Any different? Just from literally a moment of checking in. I'd love to hear on the chat. Do you feel any different from just, and we did that very, very quickly. Normally I do it 3 cycles, but I wanted to get through the content with you today. Yeah, calmer. Thank you, guys. Yeah, more focus. Definitely calmer. It works and it's free. And whenever I do online workshops, especially when COVID hit and we all had to do online, more chilled. Yeah, so important. By just getting everyone to breathe together, which I say some people hate, and I'm sorry if that's one of you, it doesn't align, but you get this shared energy and a shared connection even when we're online. It's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So thank you for going with me. And Richard and I can look at the stats and see if anyone fled afterwards. Okay, so thank you. A little gift for you. Just have a moment so that you're not being talked at and you're going with me better on this next hour. So what are we going to do? I want you to think about this, okay? When I say the words high performance, what do you think it means from your unique vantage point in HR, in people, in L&D? What does that actually mean when it comes to leadership? And I'd love you to pop it in the chat for us. When I say the words high performance, what does that even mean to you? And I know I'm challenging the people who like to reflect. And again, apologies, because this is great for fast thinkers, fast typers. Leveling up. Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, the what and the how. Effective. Just words. Great honesty, Caroline. Love the honesty. Committed, efficient, aligned, compassionate workers. Proactive, extraordinary leadership. Strong leadership. Delivering. What you say when you don't know what to say. Love that, Caroline. Thank you. Thought leadership. Now, isn't that interesting? Just from a quick check-in, everyone's got a different view. Yeah. Every single one of those are different with similarities. And I think, again, we make the mistake of just thinking, oh, say the words high performance and everyone gets it. And it means the same for everyone. And it doesn't. And nor should it. Nor should it. It should be what it means to that leader, your team, your business in this moment in time. And some people don't even like the words. They find them oppressive. So it can be quite interesting just to think, how do those words even land when you mention them? Because you want them to be positive. What do you think of the blocks and barriers then? We've seen some common themes: thought leadership, calm, knowing what to say. Do we even believe in the words high performance? But what are the blocks and barriers from your unique point of view that come up for high performance as you see it? What stops it? Unaligned, disjointed. Yes, Katie, 100%. Unclear strategy, overstretched. Bad role models. Oh, we've all had those, haven't we? Lack of clarity. Just having that time to think, Ruth. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, poor leadership. A lot of people don't get taught how to be a great leader, do they? They get expected or they get promoted for the wrong reasons. Yeah, dragged into operational. That is what I am seeing with my clients all the time. These are that's the reality. We might say we might aspire to high performance, but that is absolutely the reality. Silo mentality is really coming through, Heidi, at the moment. I think people are tired. There's quite a lot of fear in the world, let alone the workplace, and yet there's still positivity. But we can't ignore what's happened in the last 5 years at our peril. We're all human, and there is a lot of pressure out there in the world. Oh, sorry. And actually, when was the last time you just stopped to think about the words high performance and what they mean today? The last time you checked in, was it perhaps today, in the last week, the last month? Gosh, that's a good question. It's made me think. When's the last time you just stopped to think about what do the words high performance mean? And especially if you're using it in the context of your leaders, your top talent. Oh, brilliant, Joss. So last few weeks, so quite current. Right, so timely for Matthew. But I would go, great. So this is, oh, lovely. We're all in the right place for the webinar then. Hurrah. We're on trend. But isn't it interesting just to stop and ask those 2 questions that I've just asked you? Yeah. What does it even mean? How does it make people feel? And what's getting in the way? We've got to clear the decks before we can start to build. But yeah, I'm loving that it is so current. That's good. So ready for a few fun facts? Brace yourselves. Burnout rates among leaders have soared by 60% in the past decade alone. Now, again, given the specialist roles that you do, you don't need me to tell you that. I'm sure you're finding that all the time out there in the workplace. And that overwhelm, I am seeing it so current with clients. At the top, those C-suite, those execs just being overwhelmed with demands and have been for years. And here's why. More workload, more pressure, and it's hard. Like they say, leadership is hard, and yes, it's great to aspire to it, but there's a reality out there, which is why I'm so passionate. We give more support to people, the right kind of support, efficiently, but also especially people in your roles who were there at that epicenter that I talked about at the beginning. And this thing around emotional intelligence, the whole luckily I'm not on the AI train. There's better people than me to talk about AI, but that emotional intelligence, what does make a great leader, even more than ever, emotional intelligence is something that I see all the time is so vital. But you're meant to have incredible EQ whilst being burnt out, overwhelmed, and getting on with the day job. It's quite a hard ask. It really is. So for me, if you combine what we've just seen there around, the fun facts, what is the difference between success and failure, from my point of view, being at the forefront of leaders who are out there pushing it, the best of the best, how to get better? It's this. It's mastering how you lead. And what astounds me is when you get to senior level, or if you're on a natural top talent kind of advanced path, people presume you know how to lead. Okay? Because you're talented and you're delivering great results left, right, and center. But we don't stop to ask, actually, at this point in your career, your leadership as an individual and as a team, when is the last time you checked in and said, how do you lead? Practically and emotionally, that balance of the two things. How do you lead? And is it working as well as it could? If you're clearer on the practicalities of how you lead, you have this beautiful thing here. And I'll hold my hand up. I could definitely do with more focus. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I have this thing that gets in the way of my focus all the time. It's terrible. Friend and foe. Master how you lead, your focus will improve. You'll have more energy, and we all need that right now. We need to give more as well. As a leader, I find the demands my clients are facing to give energy is relentless. This beautiful thing called boundaries. Now you'll notice I love this image because it reflects that boundaries are not linear in my book. They're not binary. Some are, but a lot of them have to flex with the demands of families, with work, with seasonality, with where someone's at in the season of delivering the life cycle of the business. Means your boundaries will inevitably need to flex. But you've got to have them in the first place. And I think since COVID hit, and I know people go, oh God, don't bang on about that anymore, but it did have an impact and it blew up our boundaries, and we don't know what the answers are still, do we? What is the right way of working? How many days in the office? Do we mandate? Do we not mandate? WhatsApp? When do we text people, get in touch with people? Where are the boundaries? So a lot of my clients find so much benefit from just stepping back and going, oh, boundaries, I can actually have them again. Thank God, and make them work for me. It's important. Comes down to how you lead makes this more effective. And then finally, knowing how you lead means you can kick some of these away. We all have them, bad habits, that because we're working at such a frenetic pace in the industry currently, no matter what discipline, brand, agency side, SME, big footsie, we're all carrying bad habits. And it's just beautiful when you can let go of them because you can replace them with better ones. Mastering how you lead gets rid of those effectively. So here are the 4 fundamentals I want to take you through today. Things to make you think. Do you know it for yourself? Do you know it for your key leaders? Do you know it across the organization? These 4 fundamentals to master how you lead and get that edge. Okay, the how of high performance, one could say. Your role. What's your job? Your emotions. You notice I stopped to check in with you all at the beginning because that tells me where you're at today. It also tells you, which we might not have acknowledged. And it has a big impact on how we think, feel, and act, okay? Your fuel, your accelerators. Where are you going to get that recharge? Because we all need a recharge, and that's healthy. And fundamentally, no matter what level you are at in an organization, where's your leadership at currently? The style, the impact, the values. Really, can you make it tangible? Because you can, and when you do, it makes your job easier. So I thought I'd ask, I'm going to take you through each of these now. Okay, this is the ground we're going to cover today. So role. I always start with my clients by asking them a very interesting, simple question. Now, bear in mind, all my clients are C-suite, execs, top talent. They are extremely successful. But I'll ask them this question. I'll say, oh, hello, dear big job or title in big company. Can you just do something for me? And they're like, yeah, what, Sally? I said, can you just tell me what your job is? And they go, pardon? They're so shocked that I even asked them, because isn't it evident? And I'll say, yeah, what's your job? And I want you to just in the chat, do a little quick straw poll. What percentage of clients out of 10 do you think can answer that for me well? When I just say to them, and these are the people leading the business, okay? When I say to them, what's your job? Out of 10, on average, how many do you think have got a good answer to that? Do you 25, 6, 5, 6, 2, half? Yeah. Interesting variance there. Yeah, 3, 3, 4. Yeah, you're right, guys, to be low. I would say the amount who can't answer it, 98%. 98% cannot properly answer the question, what is your job? They can give you their job title. And yeah, thank you, Amy. You've seen the next slide coming up. A bit of a hint to everybody. She says, I'm not sure I can either. We assume we all know what our jobs are. That clarity piece someone mentioned right at the beginning around high performance and great leadership, clarity. But if you don't know what your job is, that's really hard. So this is what I think is important when defining what is your job. And I'm going to show you some examples to bring this to life from the real world. Now, purpose. Now, I don't mean a lofty purpose. I think purpose is amazing, but you've got to balance it. You've got to balance the why with the how in this current climate, even more so. But you have got to be able to give a hint to what your purpose is in your role, because that's your North Star. So when I ask my clients to tell me what their job is, they do normally two interesting things after looking shocked. They'll either look up, and I can't remember whether it's left or right, so forgive me for those who know better than me, to construct. They make it up on the spot. My job is, or they look down and try and remember, God, what did I sign when I took the job? Or what was in my last review? They don't actually know. But you want to be able to say your job in an astute, simple human language that connects and motivates you and anyone else that hears you, that lifts you. Because also what's so interesting, when I ask my clients, what's your job? Their voice tone drops and they sound bored. It's fascinating. But they're the CEO or the C whatever, or the key leader of a massive growth area of the business. But when they talk about their own job, their body language and their voice drops because they're not actually sure. And the difference when they can say it with authenticity and human language, not speak, it changes their whole outlook on how they go to work, genuinely, transforms it. You want to always link your job to a benefit. So a global CEO I was chatting with last week said, yeah, I'm here to drive growth. Reputationally and creatively and commercially, I'm here to drive growth. I went, brilliant. Why? Why are you driving growth? What's the benefit? If you link it to a benefit, people will go with you. They'll be your followers, okay? Because if they also believe in the benefit, which will link to the organizational purpose, then you've already impacted far greater than a job title. But I would say 98.8% of leaders out there cannot answer this question. Okay, so have a go. Yeah, here's Amy seeing the deck ahead. Have a go. Just take a moment to write down, what's your job? As title, my job is to to a benefit you deliver. I know it's Monday and you weren't expecting that such a working question so early in the deck, but just step back and have a think. What is your job in your organization right now that if you were to say it to me down the pub, in the park, in a cafe, I'd go, and how you would light up telling me about it. Isn't it a simple but fundamental question that has the power to change everything? But most people are out there walking around just not clear. Great, Rachel. We definitely would work on that to make it tighter. But a great start, because you guys are doing this off the bat. And well done for sharing as well. I love that. Ah, Ali, okay. What's yours? What's your job? What's your role? If you wish to share.
Do you want me to tell you instead of
Go for it. Yeah,
putting in
go
the
for
chat?
it. Very happy with that.
Enable people to do the best work of their lives so we can win in the marketplace.
Like that. Good. I can tell you've just done it recently. Could you have done that before?
Yeah, I think probably, but maybe not necessarily specific for my role, but for the team and what the purpose of the people team. Yes, but it's been fascinating for the other functional leaders to do it as well. So,
yeah.
Ali,
Great.
sorry, so I was going to
No,
say,
Richard.
dare I ask, Ali, did your CEO know?
yeah, well, yes, I think so. I mean, it was part of work that we did as a kind of leadership development. So everybody had to do it, and it was really fascinating. It's really well worth doing it as a group if anybody's thinking about it. It's a great, because it's where you have to start with your job, really, isn't it? And everything else follows on from that.
100%. And if you want to balance it as well, because I have a model for lots of things. Anyone who knows me, I love a structure and a process. But there are 5 R's that you want to underpin to actually get your job really clear, role being one of them. You then need to answer your remit and bullet point that down to 5. And the key is percentage weighting them. You look at your rhythm, which is your how. You then look at quantifying what and qualifying what are your results. And then you make sure, right, if I'm asking these results and I have got this remit with that percentage weighting over a given period of time, do they tally? Because again, I guarantee whenever I get my clients to add up the percentages, it's always over 100. And there lieth the problem around burnout. And I say to them, I hate to tell you, you're a finite being. Sorry about that, but it's true. And then you also want to be thinking about, so you got role, remit, rhythm, results, and the last one being reward, which is a really critical one for senior high performance, because very often people aren't being encouraged to think, what is it about my growth and development that I need? How do I want to grow across 3 core pillars? But yeah, it's so important. But we start with the clarity. But do you know what? Sometimes we have to do the rest of the R's to get back to that one to then put the cherry on the cake. So there, what is the job? And it's so interesting to have tonality in the job as well. Because if you're there to change everything and blow everything up, but to get to X outcome that everyone wants, they'll forgive you more. Or if equally you're there not to change anything to get to X outcome, people won't expect you to change things because you're giving them the hint in the tonality of the job, more than a title. Thanks, Richard. Okay, so here's some examples, bit Blue Peter style, for anyone who's similar well to me. Okay, so this is a client of mine who work in a top FTSE business, an incredible leadership team, coping with an intense amount of change, both macro and micro. So their whole industry is changing as well as their company. And they did not have this clarity of role before just working as a team on those 5 R's to get it. Okay. This is what they wrote. They all came together and crafted this language in in a half-day workshop, as well as everything else. It's amazing when you give people just 20 minutes to go away and think about it. For the fast thinkers, not everyone likes that. But it's amazing what people can come up with quickly and ultimately delivering results. So they've taken that and put that into their ways of working for that exec, but they didn't have that clarity before. And then here's where it becomes really beautiful and magnified. They then went off and did it for each of them. Okay. So this is a live client example. I've just made it anonymous when needed. And they had their picture, they had their job title, and then each of them had written that statement about their job. And you can tell, hopefully by reading it, who's the head of brand, who's the head of sales, who's the head of people, who's the chief executive officer, who's finance, who's ops. But they have that, and then it all comes together. So they all deliver that central piece, which also links to the organizational's overall purpose. They did not have this clarity before. and the difference in them by having this and how they feel so much clearer and more efficient in their jobs has been incredible to be part of. And then you can take this and you cascade it all the way through, and you also use it in recruitment. It's a very interesting way to, I'm an ex-headhunter, I always say one of the good ones, okay, from a long time ago in an earlier career. If you're asking people coming through from talent, say, how would you define the essence of this job? You're learning from the market in real time because they're doing the job. And often people recruiting for that job haven't done it for years. So getting people to give you this kind of intel is extremely powerful. And then also for retainment as well. Okay, so we're going to go on to the second one now, emotion. And forgive me, I am giving you a whistle-stop tour, but I just wanted to give you some nice grounding that you can take back and work with. Emotions, these things. I'm a massive Inside Out fan. I think it's such a cool film. But these things show up all the time. And obviously, this is just an example of emotions. But when I ask so the first question I ask my clients is, what's your job? The second thing I ask them is, how are you? How do you feel? Which again, when they're often the top stakeholder in the business, they don't often have that safe space to be really bloody honest because they've got to still be leading. And yes, vulnerability matters, but there's also stuff that you think, do they even know how they feel? Because they're running at such a run rate that it's just become normal. Now, you don't need me, especially given the specialism that all you guys work in, you don't need me to tell you how emotions affect people at work. I think you all see that on a daily basis. But for me, the fascinating bit is the subconscious and conscious level, because very often with clients, they're not aware how some of their feelings are showing up and influencing them. And you get to this point here, uncomfortable truths. And when you get a team together in a structured way to look at emotions and uncover the uncomfortable truths, that is quite exciting, quite daunting, but quite exciting when you can work through it, because every team has them, because we're all human, and especially now. So I don't have time to take you through this tool called the 5-word reveal. But it's a technique that I created. It's very simple and structured that gives you a fast emotional insight. Rich is going to share a video. It's like a 10-minute video max where I'm taking you through this methodology where you will get a reading of how do you feel right now? What does that mean? And how can you flip it and have a plan of action so you're taking the most effective emotions forward, specifically to engage a high stakes situation. It's a very, very powerful thing to use with your people. So when I'm talking with a CEO about going for a new job, I'll get them to do a 5-word reveal with me and we'll do flips. But literally just go and have a quick look at that video when you can. It's structured, it's quick, and it's incredibly simple, but really effective in terms of how emotions under the surface are impacting how someone is feeling and performing. Little side note, you have to be in a good place yourself to do this. Depending what they say, you have to deal with it. And you also want psychological safety, so they're telling you the truth, not a PR exercise. I'm amazing. I'm energized. I feel inspired. Now, great if they have that, but normally there's a balance, okay? And that's also healthy, the yin and the yang. So why don't you just take a moment? We started at the beginning, but now we're warming up. Just write the 3 to 5 emotions, how you feel right now. And you don't have to share these. You're very welcome to if you wish. But really, bloody honestly, Yorkshire Direct, absolutely say what it is. Just check in with yourself. How do you feel at work right now? And write 3 to 5 emotions and then percentage weight them. It's going to give you an interesting, fast emotional insight to how your emotions are and how's your lens being colored, which emotions are coloring your lens that you're seeing the world through, which you may not be conscious of. So just take a moment, 3 to 5. And if you wish to share, fabulous. If you don't, this is time for you. Yeah. Hence why it says you. You don't have to share. But it's good for you to acknowledge to yourself how you are feeling at work, honestly. And what does that mean? Because how you feel impacts everything. And it changes. It's not a constant. And especially in your roles where you don't know what's going to walk through the door every day, do you? Who's going to knock on your door? And in what mood are they in? That takes a lot of energy and emotion from you at times. Now, just before we move on, anyone surprised by how easy did you find that? This would be good to either speak or put in the chat. By all means, speak if easier. How did you find that exercise? Easy, a bit uncomfortable? Did it surprise you? Would love just to check in.
I don't want to be stereotypically male here, but it's quite hard to think of 3. That's just me, isn't it? It's just going to be me.
And you want to get to 5, Richard.
All at the same time.
Paddy, I thought that was really refreshing, actually. You don't usually think of it in that way, do you? Of what are those emotions and the weighting behind it. So yeah, I found it really helpful.
I'm glad. Thank you, Rachel.
I like the waiting a lot as well. I think that makes sense, actually, prioritising.
Yes, it really does. Yeah, and also, Matthew, we're doing this at pace. So, I'm asking you to do stuff that I would normally give you loads of prep for, and we go through a structured process and you'll be guided. So everyone's doing great. But it's not easy, is it? It's because we are also in the HR people world, you often don't have time to even stop and think about yourself at all. Because and that's what a leader's like as well. A leader's always thinking about who's in their care, how do they need to be supporting. But it's a classic, the oxygen mask first. It's a classic for a reason. Okay, now your accelerators, the fuel. Even more important than ever before is knowing where do you get your fuel from. Because a lot of time people don't know. And I have a tool I work with, it's not mine, it's called Motivational Map Profiling. Some of you might know it, but I use it to give people a fast, quantified insight to motivation, and it's a game changer. Because they do it, you do it individually, you do it as a team, and you get science to answer around emotions and motivation, which is quite powerful. More motivation than emotions, to be fair. But it's people, what I find so interesting when I get people to check in on their accelerators, their fuel, most people don't know. So there's 9 motivators in this particular model. There's lots you could be using, but this one that I happen to use, there's 9, and people normally select the wrong top 3. And they most certainly select the wrong top 3 for their colleagues. And that in itself is quite fascinating. So a question for you is just to think, do you think your key leaders and people really understand where they get their motivation from? And do you? And what's the impact of not knowing? Especially if you go back to some of my earlier slides, pressure to deliver, overwhelm, less resources, It's even more important we know how to get that fuel, that accelerator, because we all need it. And we all need some time out to get it sometimes as well. And especially in this whole ways of work not being clear, and we're stuck, Zoom is really great. We're all doing this really efficiently on Zoom today. It's wonderful. But if you're on Zoom all day, or equally if you're in meetings all day, it can be exhausting. You've got to have that ability to know, how do I recharge and refuel? So out of interest, you guys feel you know this about yourselves, and you're accurate in terms of this is what motivates me at work. This is how I get my fuel, my acceleration. Is it something you've had even a moment to think about recently for yourselves? And feel free to speak. You're definitely allowed to speak. Everyone's stunned silence on that question. Anyone know? Anyone to go, yes, Sally, I know exactly what motivates me and know how to get it, and it's working really well.
I mean, for me personally, I'm a little bit of a people pleaser anyway, so I think that's an element. But I think for some of our leaders, there's things like bonus and L tips and things like that are a heavy part of that motivation piece for them.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. Thank you for breaking the tumbleweed as well. That was nice of you. Thanks, Jess. Feeling heard. And Katie said, no, but I want to find out. Yeah, new ideas, networking, connecting. No time and space. Absolutely, Ruth. So think about if we get your job clearer, we can make time for it. Learning. And what's so fascinating is that, in the 9 motivators, there's things like builder, which is money. There's spirit, which is freedom. There's searcher, which is all about having purpose and meaning, but doesn't need to be a lofty meaning. It's whatever it means to you. There's friend, which is quite a polarizing one. If people get low friend, they always caveat by going, I do like people. And it's like, yes, that's fine, but you don't come to work for a sense of belonging. You maybe got that outside of work. So it's super, super fascinating when people get to know what motivates them, because then they can just make sure it's working better. Okay. Yeah, creating change and seeing its impact. Yeah, so I can see some similar themes coming through here, but when you know accurately, and for those people who love a bit of metrics, It's really powerful because you get a percentage out of 100. Actually, how well are those needs being met at work right now? And it's nothing to do with performance, which is why I love it as well. You can be a very top performer, but your motivation is low. You just hide it well. But at some point that will burst. At some point that's not sustainable. And also, if we're looking in a market, we want to keep our best talent as well as we can. Knowing this for themselves and the organization and the team, it's transformational. It's motivational map profiling, Rachel. It was created by a guy called James Sale about 15 years ago, whose personal mission was to become the expert on how to measure motivation. He calls it measuring what you can't see, what's on the inside. And then if you know that, again, today is all about mastering how you lead. It just makes you so much more efficient in how you then bring yourself in as a leader and a team. Okay, and a whole organization as well. Okay, leadership. So we're on the final furlong, so I definitely want to leave time for a Q&A as well, if you would like one with me. Now, isn't this a word that everyone thinks they know what it means as well? A bit like the word high performance. You know, in what context, what does it mean, at what level, etc. I always think this is quite an interesting slide because leadership is subjective. Okay, I always say, forgive me, I know we shouldn't be political, but how the man there with the pursed lips could be seen as a great leader does baffle me. Forgive me if anyone does like Donald Trump, but I'm not one of them. But we've got some great leaders on here, but it's subjective. And what I find interesting is when people are leading, often what they're doing unconsciously is they are trying to be like a leader or not be like that leader they worked for many years ago. Yeah. If we've worked for a poor leader, it's very motivating to not be like them. But if you're striving to be like somebody or not be like somebody, you're not being who you are. And it's exhausting. And it's interesting just how many leaders are actually doing this, but not consciously. So I want to show you a technique that I take clients through that you can use to really understand what is your leadership style. But very importantly, this is when some classic neurolinguistic programming comes in. You get to play with the concept of time. So you get to anchor your leadership now, yin and yang. What's my style? What's working? Maybe what's not. But given where we're trying to get to, and remember, I operate in high stakes. There's always a big thing that people are trying to deliver. If I want to deliver this big thing as a team, an organization, and as the leader, I've got to have a clear sight of how my leadership needs to grow to have delivered it, because I'm stretching. You know, this is something we haven't done before often. By knowing what your future leadership style is and making it tangible and calling it into the now, because your brain doesn't know the difference between time, fact or fantasy, you can be it now. Now, when I first learned that, my brain popped. When I realized, oh my God, my brain doesn't actually know the difference between past, present, and future. It's a construct. So how many times do you worry about what went before and think, I shouldn't have said that? Damn. And you feel as you do, as if you're in that meeting, or you worry about what might happen and you feel as real as if it's happening, but it's not real. Very, very rarely, actually, currently in the world of leadership, in this world of work, we're very rarely in the present. But you can use this to your advantage and you can teach your leaders to do it for themselves. So what do I mean by this? Let's have a look. This is the technique called leadership vision boarding.
So, Trant, are you showing a deck?
Oh yes, can you not see it?
No. Oh, I can't anyway. Can anyone else?
Can everyone see it?
It's just me.
Oh,
I can see it.
You crack on. It looks great.
Oh, bless you, Richard. Well, sorry you can't, but few that people can. And always good to check. Always good to check. Okay, so here are some real-world examples. This is someone who's done a one-on-one leadership vision board. Now, I was working with this person when they were a chief strategy officer who, Richard, you could look at the copy that I sent you. Yeah, and if you go to, we're looking at the first gift deck. Now, my client loved gifts, as you can tell. Now, when they were a chief strategy officer, they put this deck together to reflect their leadership. And they got full marks for being the most humble, most open leader in the session. But it wasn't very aspirational, but that was okay. We were just benchmarking. Where are you now? Now, very quickly, this business, the CEO got headhunted, left very amicably. And the CSO was saying to me, I'm going to go to market. We're going to go, they're part of a big network. We're going to go to market and get a new CEO. And I said, well, that's very interesting. Would you like my point of view? Yeah, of course. I think you're the next CEO. What? Never. I'm a CSO and I'm very happy being one. Oh, well, just have a think about it. So this is their leadership vision board they put together when they were thinking about, do I even want to become a CEO? Now, they worked in an organization that had a lot of alpha, forgive the gender stereotype, but a lot of alpha male CEOs. They're a male CEO, but they thought, I don't want to be like them. Crikey, if being a CEO means behaving like that, no, thank you. And I said, no, you be a CEO in your own image. You need to only do it if it's right for you. And they had a young child at the time, hence Papa Bear. So I don't want to be a CEO if I'm not going to be able to see my family. So this is them considering, do I really want to be a CEO? And if I were to be a CEO, how will I show up as a leader? Now, already, what a difference. This is the same human, okay? Just months apart. And we worked on it again and we talked about it again. And then they decide, and also ironically, or interestingly rather, they were never going to get offered the job as CEO. They had to take it. It's a very unique situation, this client. But if they'd gone and said to their global head of people, I think I'd like to be the CEO for X business, it would have been like, oh, well, it would have been a nightmare. They had to seize it, stand up in a boardroom of 30 people and announce that they were taking the role of CEO and own it. And this person had also worked in this particular organization since being a graduate. Hello, legacy. Yeah. So it was a big ask to present themselves in this new way. So they created this. Okay. This is their future leadership vision board when they imagined they'd been in the CEO job for a year. So we use the trickery of time. Okay, you've done it for a year, you've blown it out the park, everyone's delighted you're CEO, you're delighted you're CEO, it's going really well. How did you show up as a leader? And this is what they put together. Now, I'm a very direct mentor. I'm not a coach. I'm much more advisory giving. And I would like some feedback. Yes. I said, you talk a lot. You're a planner and a strategist. You need to get to the point much quicker as a CEO, hence the less flour, more bang. Okay. I also said, you are very monotone when you deliver and you lose people because you're not using your voice as a tool, which is fine as CSO, but when you're CEO, less good. You're going to have to use your voice to convey your messaging and vision as CEO like you're not doing as CSO. Hence why voice is leadership tool. And then forgive me, this is a little bit crude, but I also said to them, you're going to have to find your kahunas. If you're going to take this job on, you're going to have to be bloody brave. All right. Now, I'm pleased to say this guy is now 3 years in that job. It's going amazing. They're winning awards and he has loved it. It's not been without challenge, but he was ultimately 100% the right person for that job. But I again, give you an absolute guarantee. If he had not done this process, he would never have gone for it because he couldn't have visualized his future growth path and he wouldn't have had the confidence to take it. Yeah. Let's just quickly recap. That's where he started. This is over 6 months. Yeah, this is when the CEO hadn't been headhunted. So we hadn't even got to his future LVB as a CSO. CEO's just been headhunted. Do you reckon it's you? Not too sure. I do love the Mr. Beans. If you haven't seen those. Mr. Bean in this keeps it cute, keeps it real. And then again, he knew it was going to be a roller coaster. But this gave him that clarity of his unique leadership vision that company needed to get through that transition and transformation. And I said he smashed it out of the park. Okay. This is, before we go to questions, just a couple of slides left. This is when a team does it. Okay. So this is a team who have worked together for a very long time, growing a business that is scaling unbelievably. And therefore they have got to have a future vision that they can keep ahead of the scale of the company. And they like the gifts. They were inspired by seeing that example in a workshop that I just shared with you. So they put this together for them as a leadership team. And they've done all the other work within the Real Method, which I'm taking you through kind of loosely now, to have all the infrastructure and about their jobs, their emotions, their motivations. And then this is how we're going to lead collectively. And that's that making big choices. I love that because they were like, we're going to have to smash a few plates. Just let's make sure it's not the good china. Yeah. Because the scale that we're growing at, we can't, if we don't smash a few things and break a few things on the way, we won't get where we want to get to. But we have to be comfortable with that. So again, this transformed how they showed up as a collective. And then each of them did their individual ones as well. Okay, quick recap, then I'd love to get some Q&A. We've got about 13 minutes left. So we have covered role, emotions, accelerators, leadership. What's your job? What's the purpose? Make it human, have a benefit. How do you really bloody honestly feel right now at work? Because it's affecting you. That could be brilliantly, that could be mega positive, hurrah, but there could be a few little gremlins that just need a bit of air and reframing. Do you know where you get your fuel from? How do you want to get rewarded motivationally and energetically at work? Because it can be easier and accurate. And are you clear in your own roles? You've got some lovely goals that you're going for and you want to grow in your current positions. Imagine yourself at X time in the future. Now, if your company's going through massive change, maybe 6 months is enough. If it's more steady change, maybe a year to 2 years. Okay, so I'm in 2027. We have done X, Y, Z. Yes, Ravi, slides will follow. I want to do X, Y, and Z. What will my leadership have become? How? And then you go into the past tense. How have I developed this? And you create that, and then you can be it now. It's incredibly powerful, and it works. It really works. And that gives you the foundations, the essence for the how of high performance. You get those 4 really sounds simply, scarily simple, but actually really powerful and quite hard to solve sometimes. That gives you your foundation for the how of high performance. Role, emotions, accelerators, leaderships. Okay, I'd love you to check in with me. You can tell, hopefully, I'm very passionate about this. I think it matters in the world greatly. And I was super proud of my geeky self. I actually got a QR code up there for LinkedIn, because if you know me, tech is not my friend, as happened at the beginning of this session. But please feel free to link in with me. I'd love to be connected. Now, let's do this as we're talking. I always think it's important that you come away going, what have I learned? How has it helped me / my business? And what action am I going to take? Okay, so as I'm coming out of the deck, just be thinking, what have I learned? How has it helped me? What action do I want to take as a result? Okay. And then you can find and master your how. Okay, so we're going to go over to questions.
Thanks, Sally. So, I mean, absolutely extraordinary. So that's what a high energy session looks like when you've just recovered from COVID, apparently. I mean, well done, Sally. It was just really interesting. And thanks so much.
Thank you.
Nari. Love that. So I'm going to start off with one while people think. Please do come in on the chat and raise your hand. Just come in anyway. I just wanted to ask you, Sally, that lovely story you told at the end, which is really instructive. I found that very instructive about the CEO. What was it about him that made you think, actually, no, I think it's you, when he didn't even see that himself?
I do have the previous career as a headhunter. So that was a big advantage in talent mapping and just... I could just see, Richard, he was ready, and he had strength and conviction of thinking, of leadership, of character, and of passion for the business that he'd been in for a long time that he didn't realize. And if he could just see that, he would be there. And because he had an incredibly accurate business take on where that business had to go. So he wasn't just a nice man, he wasn't just an ambassador. He had a very clear vision for that company, and he knew it. He knew it inside out. And he was just ready to be the leader. And I could see it so clearly, like to me, and I'm working with the team, I'm working with him one-on-one. So and my job is to take a very quick read, very accurately, of what am I dealing with. As I said, I feel very fortunate in my role as a high stakes leadership mentor that I have that kind of 15 years plus in headhunting beforehand, that I can read talent and business and connection and gaps. I'm very lucky it's in my DNA.
But maybe self-awareness was perhaps lacking a little bit to an extent for him.
And confidence, Richard. It was just to even think me. And also he had a bit of a subconscious bias that wasn't helping him. I don't want to be like them. Yeah. So that was blocking him, because he had a disconnect that wasn't true, or a connection that wasn't actually real. That if I become a CEO, it means I'll end up being like that.
Yeah.
He didn't even know he had.
He thought that was what the role just required as well, because that's all he'd seen.
Yeah, and it had been very successful in different areas, and it was, there's always two sides, but it wasn't right for that business. And actually a lot of that behavior has also changed now. It's not even current in that organization.
Thanks, Sally. Really interesting. Ali, nice to see you.
Right, yeah, I've just got a question about, that was really interesting. Thanks so much, Sally. Just about the team leadership vision boarding. So I'm interested to know how the leadership team use that to hold themselves accountable to actually deliver that vision for themselves as a team. How did that work, etc.?
Oh, I would love to tell you they followed these 3 steps. I would love to tell you that. Every team is different, and it links back to their KPIs, it links back to having the 5 R's mapped out, and then having a rhythm of checking in and making sure how will we, this team in this business, how do we best want to keep ourselves accountable to that? And also starting with the will for that, Ali. Do we all believe in it? You know, now some people, I'll be very honest, don't like creative visuals. That's not their thing. Some people, I have brilliant cynics in the room where I have to convince them of its value. And it's not just a fluffy creative exercise, because not everyone's visual. So I'll say to them, well, do it with words then, or mantras. But you've got to have some kind of way of channeling in the real world what your future leadership style is, and then holding each other accountable to it. But and they start, I'll just quickly show you actually, they start with like these little cards. So this is how they make it. So I brand up these cards, and then there's got all these images you can't really see, but they're all professional image sources. One of oh, that's quite a nice one. People either want less of that as a team or more. Can you see it's 2 bears fighting? Actually, the team you saw chose that, and they replaced it with smashing the plates because they would need more confrontation. We're a bit nice to each other. So they physically create their LVB, Leadership Vision Board, together in a room, so they have ownership on it. And you see the synergy between what do these images mean for each of the team members, and where is there also disconnect and disagreement. So they have a huge role in creating it. It's not an academic exercise, and therefore, but hopefully by nature they feel naturally motivated to be it because they see the value of it, and it's better than where they are now. It's important.
Oh, thanks very much.
Yeah, Caroline, people do like the bears.
There's 2 cracking, thanks, Ellie. There's 2 cracking questions in there, in the chat there, Sally. One is Ruth is asking about what advice do you have if HR themselves are exhausted by the deficiencies of leadership in our organisations, don't have the energy to keep trying to do all the fixing? That's quite a common question, I would say.
And it's great honesty, and thank you for asking. It's vital. I mean, I'm going to sound like a cliche because obviously I believe in what I do, but get help. You know, I find it incredible that people in your roles don't naturally have someone like me on your side, giving you the outlet, giving you the support. Obviously, you've got this great group, what Richard runs. You know, you get a lot of support from this community. I would say perspective is everything, and reality is also reality. So I think if you can take some time out, give yourself permission just to have a bit of space. And I know you say, well, it's very easy to stay on a webinar, Sally, but just to give a little bit of space to get your perspective and regain your energy. And you need your ambassadors. You can't do it alone. Even if you have an amazing team, you can't do it alone. You need the ambassadors out there in the workforce who also want to be championing the fix. But for me, it would be saying, look after yourself. You know, take that step back, think about what do you need so that you're in prime position, and then pick your battles well. You know, and what will be the quick wins? You know, I think what people are really hungry for, what I'm hearing, is quick wins, small things that can make a huge difference, so people feel like they're making progress. Because it's back to where I started. We're on like the 5th year now of massive disruption and anxiety in the world, and that takes a toll. Not an excuse not to lower performance, but it's a reality. But look after you first, and find some space to get that recharge and work out what is your recharge. I know that's a little bit big, but happy to talk more if you want to get in touch and make it more specific.
Thanks, Sally. There's another great question as well from Rachel. I love this one as well. I hear confidence being discussed more and more, specifically in terms of holding people back. Do you think there's a bigger problem with confidence now, or is it simply people are talking about it more openly, or is it something else? What's your experience?
Oh, I think there's loads on. I could have a whole webinar on that one, Richard. I think there's a combination of confidence being mistaken for energy and appetite and resilience. Because if you're knackered, it's very hard to be confident about something, because confidence takes energy. I also think there's a dynamic that's quite interesting in the workplace, which I could see coming 15 years ago, which is what I call a glass step. So it's not so much the glass ceiling, but because we've had so much people can move their careers very easily. And I think we have a lack of talent at a senior level who's got depth, who've got that real apprenticeship in the craft of their job. Because when I was that headhunter 20 years ago, or recruiter, I generally had to explain less than 3 years. If someone had moved within 3 years, they were a flight risk. 3 years in a job. If they were less than 3 years, flight risk. Now you're lucky to get someone in a job for 3 years. So I think the trend in the workplace has been to move jobs quite a lot. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's had an impact. So I think there's a certain level of leadership where they just haven't had the depth of training or exposure and apprenticeship in the craft of their job, which now they're more senior, it's showing. So that affects confidence because they're thinking, God, actually, I haven't, I don't have the depth in this. I might have overt confidence and I've mastered my career brilliantly, but when it comes to this, I need a bit more help. So I think, and there's a lady, there was a brilliant write-up about the fact that it's more to the agency, it's how the agencies have got long COVID. Mrs. Walker, a talent headhunter, who talked about this, saying that there's people who've been over promoted because there was a war for talent, there was a lack of talent, people had to be promoted to retain them. So I think there's a bit of a mismatch out there in the workforce between seniority, ability, and mapping that with confidence.
That's really interesting. That's not a trend I was personally aware of. I find that very interesting, especially compared to what was in the 3 years was a flight risk. Now it's you're lucky if you get 3 years. That's great, Sally. Thank you ever so much. Really appreciate everyone turning up and contributing. Lovely to see you all. Sally, thanks so much for doing that. We'll send the slides around on Wednesday with the recording because you've got a brand new website coming out, so we'll tie the two together. So that'll be nice. Thanks ever so much for coming. Keep sharing on the WhatsApp groups. Sally, stay on, see the feedback, and please do leave us some feedback for Sally. Much appreciated.
Yes, please do. Been great to have you all. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for the invite, Richard. It's been a blast. It really has.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks, everyone.